Coming up in today's episode.
My wife and I, as an example, here we are. We're stressed out. We're 23 years of age. And we just find out our franchisee selling its 2 stores. And the reason we're stressed out is we know we've seen enough stores sold around us that the moment a store is sold, the managers are let go because the new owners come in with their team. And so we're now going, oh my goodness, we're both about to lose our jobs. And I'm sitting here and I'm freaking out and I'm like, what are we going to do? And we got to get a hold of the other franchisees. We got to find out who else needs managers. And my wife's letting me blow off steam.
Welcome to episode 96 of Enter the Mind podcast, the most real talk, no nonsense podcast on the empowering of the mind. Today's guest is Robert Riopel, growth and development coach, author, and podcast host. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Robert. 96. I love that number because I'm all about 3s, 6s, and 9s. So this is pretty cool.
I know that a lot of people have some misconceptions about 369, so I would love to hear that. You said that you're all about it. I'd love to hear a clear description of it in the podcast if that's possible.
Well, yeah, and I'll even try to keep it PG. I will say that my favorite number in the whole world is 69 because that's the year my wife and I were both born. So summer of 69. And this year is we just celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary. We started dating on the 6th day of the 6th month of the 86th year. And we got married when we were 19. So the numbers just keep popping up in our life. And they are, everything we look at, my wife does numerology. So she's always looking to see where do the numbers line up? Are they, even the name of our company? She, when we decided on the name, she went through all the numerology and then gave me the thumbs up that it was an okay name because it met up with what we needed. And I just sit there and go, yes, dear, and play along with it. No, but I love the numbers and they show up everywhere in our life.
Wow. Yeah. Talk about, well, it's not coincidences, right? It's the numerology. So Robert, you do a lot of coaching. And can you tell us, for audience members who are not familiar, what type of coaching do you provide?
Yeah, the coaching I do is really on helping people find what their passion is, and then from finding their passion, how to be able to actually live that part of their life. Most people, they get in the mind block that, well, if I love this, I probably can't make money at it. So they end up getting caught up doing something they don't enjoy to make the money. And then if they get to live their passion, it's always on a part-time basis at best. So I just love to dive in, pull out of them what their passion is, and then we start to brainstorm how they can do that more and actually make money and actually help a lot of people with it so that they get to live their passion as much as they choose to. And then I'm going to put that little kind of caveat in there because that's what happened for me. But I figured out actually you can actually overlive your passion, believe it or not.
You can overlive your passion?
Yeah.
So what would be an example of that?
Well, when I went from over $150,000 in personal financial debt and getting introduced to personal development, which to me was too way out there, too woo-woo, until I needed it. And then all of a sudden when I realized how much it changed my life, my wife and I ended up going from being over $150,000 in debt to actually retiring completely financially free 9 months after a 3-day training that changed our life. And I went, wow, that worked. And as we kind of started diving more into learning, I found my passion was to be a trainer. And in 2002, I started assisting in trainings. And in 2004, I led my very first one. Well, the moment I led my first training, the next 4.5 years, I did over 200 multi-day trainings throughout North America, plus and helped launch a training in Asia. And I ended up only being at home on average 2 days a month. I was doing it because I loved it. My wife was running the logistics, so we were together. But I didn't realize how burnt out I was getting because I was going so full tilt. I forgot to take care of me. And that's what I mean by overliving my passion. In 2008, in September, I ended up having to take a break, which I thought would be a year because I was burnt out, but it turned into 3.5 years because not only did I get burnt out, but I was not taking care of myself properly on stage, and I ended up herniating a disc and going through 2 back surgeries. So when I say you can overlive your passion, yeah, I kind of experienced it, which was probably not the best way to do it.
Okay, I see what you mean there. Yeah, it's got to be sustainable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So with these 9 months, that sounded like a bombshell right there of a statement. In 9 months after this workshop, you guys retired financially free. That, like, my mind just wants to know, what did you do in those 9 months that made you be able to retire?
Yeah. Well, first of all, is I'm going to tell people I'm no different than anybody. I just probably have less hair than most people. And so it doesn't make me any, more aerodynamic. I go quicker. No, not the problem. That's not it. We made some hard decisions, and we looked at our life because we finally understood, why we were in debt. But the biggest thing that made a difference for my wife and I is we actually started taking ownership of our debt. See, I was really good at blaming other people. They lost my investment. Because of them, I did this, and now look what happened. And so the moment I started taking ownership, that's when our life turned around. And some of the hard decisions we started to make is we started looking at going, look at all the toys we have. Being Domino's pizza franchisees at the time, we were trying to keep up with the Joneses. And so we had to have all the nice things, even though we weren't using them, even though they weren't practical, even though we couldn't afford them, we had them because that's what successful people do. And so the first thing we did is we said, okay, what don't we need right now? We may want it. It may not be nice to have it, but if we were to get rid of it and get rid of the expenses, how would that allow us to have a greater financial life? And so we started cutting a lot of things out of our life that we just didn't need. Like, as an example, one of our Domino's pizza stores was in a resort community. And so since we lived on the lake, we had to have a boat, because that's what you do, right? You have a boat. Now, the stupid part was our busy season of the year was boating season. So where the boat sat was in our driveway, looking nice with all its expenses, never getting used. But hey, we're successful. We have a boat. So we sold the boat. We had 2 vehicles, because isn't that, again, what successful people do? They have multiple vehicles. Well, my wife and I were always in the store together using one vehicle. So we didn't need 2 vehicles. So we sold one of the vehicles. So we dramatically started cutting down our expenses and then creating passive income at the same time. And that's why very quickly we were able to create financial freedom.
Right. So you could sell off those assets, but I would imagine it matters what you do with that money. You didn't go put it in a bank account at 1% interest, did you?
No, in Canada, they're actually able to charge us interest if we put our money in the bank, if they really want to. I know it's a law that passed about 5 years ago. Isn't that crazy? No, we actually started creating and purchasing passive business incomes, which is money working for us, businesses working for us. And we actually, because there's a financial freedom formula that says you are financially free when your passive income, money working for you, is greater than your expenses. So we had no passive income, never knew what it was, and we had huge expenses. So there's no way we're going to ever get financial freedom. But when we started simplifying our life and we ended up creating 2 passive incomes, they surpass each other very, very quickly. And for your listeners and your viewers, one of the things I want them to understand is their minds might have said, oh, Robert went from $150,000 in debt to wealthy in 9 months. Whoa. And I want to be very clear. That's not what I said. We became financially free, which meant we had enough money to cover our expenses. We were still barely getting by, but now we didn't have to work. And we ended up getting a side benefit we had never expected, which was time freedom. You see, before we were financially free, we were working on average 60, 70, 80 hours a week or more just trying to earn a living. And, Robert and Kyra, if I was to sit there and go, I'm your genie, I'm going to hand you 40 hours more a week to do with whatever you want, do you think you could find something to do at that time?
Yeah.
Of course.
Right? So we also had all this time freed up, and we went, wow, what do we do with this time now? And we decided to take only 10 hours of that time we had just found, because now we didn't have to work all those hours in the stores. We took 10 hours a week and we focused on creating wealth. And all of a sudden, creating wealth became so much easier because we weren't stressed out. So if your listeners and your viewers get one takeaway from this, here's what I want them to say. Or here, don't go from trying to be stressed out financially to rich. Get to financial freedom first. Free up your time so now you have the time and the energy to create the wealth, and watch how quick it can come to you.
So if somebody's expenses every month, let's say, is $5,000, their rent, their food, everything,
Yep.
you're saying they're considered financially free when they have passive income that equals $5,000 per month
Correct.
and pays all their expenses.
That's correct.
So how hard or how easy is it to generate $5,000 a month of passive income?
Well, it's going to take work in the beginning. And that's one of the things that holds so many people back is their mind goes, and when we talk about mindset, their mind goes, oh my goodness, you don't know my life. I'm already working hard. I don't have time to put into anything else. And a couple things on that. One of the things in my years of research I've realized is, people are really good at working hard, but they're not necessarily being productive. They're just got good at being busy. And so when you start to get a little more productive using what I call focus time slots, you could end up getting more done in less time, becoming more productive, which then frees up a ton of time. And in my life, as an example, 1 hour of me being focused without distraction is equal to about 6 hours of me being busy. Now, if you think about that, 1 to 6. So every hour I'm productive, I'm freeing up 5 extra hours of time in my life. And so that's one thing to understand. And when people are really good at being hard workers anyway, most people are actually working hard at being broke. And they don't even realize that. And so what about putting a little of that energy, refocusing it, and focus on working hard at creating wealth instead of creating being broke? And so in the beginning, I'll never say creating wealth is easy. You've got to work at it. So it does take some discipline in the beginning, especially, and the due diligence and the work to learn things. But creating $5,000 a month in passive income, it's very, very doable very, very quickly.
Through owning businesses, through owning real estate, or what's the most common techniques that you see succeed?
Yeah, well, there's two types of passive income. There's what's called investment income, which is money working for you. So that could be crypto, that could be stocks, and all those things. Anything that's giving you, that 1% interest in the bank account, anything that's giving you an interest rate, that's the passive investment income. But the one I like is passive business income. And, in fact, close your eyes, the two of you, close your eyes. I want you to visualize something, okay? I want you to picture walking through your house. You walk into a room, and in that room is shelf after shelf of little machines spitting money out at you. Now, if you'd like that kind of room in your house, give me a thumbs up and go ahead and open your eyes. That's what passive business income is. Any business can be systemized. So if someone's in a business right now, they could actually, if they put the systems in place so it removes them out of it, it could actually easily be turned into a passive business income. So my wife and I, our first business we did that with was our Domino's Pizza. We had one store left, and we'd been trying to sell it out of duress because we needed to pay off some bills. And also when we learned this, we went, you know what? One of the reasons we're in financial difficulty right now is we're not enjoying Domino's Pizza anymore. And I'm a big believer, you two, that if I don't enjoy doing what I'm doing, I'm going to do something else. And so we started spending less time in the store, which was one of the issues. But when we understood about systemizing, we looked at our store and went, wow, no wonder we're struggling. We've never given our management guidance. We've told them the system of Domino's, but we've never had the systems in place for it to run without us. So we went back to our stores, and the first thing we did with that store is we empowered our manager to be able to fully run it, gave them incentives to make it do well, and we ended up being able to remove ourselves out of the day-to-day operations. Now, it didn't mean we could just totally ignore the store. Even if something's passive, you still have to take responsibility for your financial decisions. So we were still, would check in the store once a week, how are things going? And the moment we systemized it, though, and it was working and spitting out money for us passively, all of a sudden, 3 people. No one wanted the store before, but now all of a sudden 3 people, because we had changed our mindset and our outlook, 3 people wanted that store. And what a lot of people, kind of a wealth tool for them is you can make good money owning and operating a business or even making it passive, but you can make even more money selling a business. And there's companies looking for businesses out there that are systemized and working well and creating an income that they'll pay millions and billions of dollars for. So when all of a sudden we had 3 buyers, it was a no-brainer to sell the last store. And so any business, if people want to create passive income quickly, either start a business, and you can start businesses for 0 money, just a little bit of time, but get it systemized, or find existing ones that are already running. And if you have, a 401k, an IRA, or in Canada, our RSP, you can actually use some of your retirement funds to buy those businesses that are already spitting money out. And you can turn around and buy them that are already existing. So a lot of ways of doing it.
Right. And what would you say to somebody who says, well, I don't have an MBA, I don't know how to run a business, what can I even do this?
I barely graduated grade 12. Just saying. Hashtag, just saying. So it's in believing in yourself. It really is. And it's getting willing. Look, in school, unfortunately, they taught us how to not be successful. Let's just put it that way. And if you think about it, what is the greatest way to succeed? Find someone who's done what you want to do and copy them. But in school, that was beat into us that's bad, copying someone. That's cheating. And we learned that for all those years growing up. And then also when we get into the real world and we see a system that works and we go, oh, that's awesome. Oh, but our mind goes, I can't do that though because I don't want to be a cheater. And we sabotage our success. So that is first changing your mind on it and realizing, you know what, I can do this. I'm passionate about it. My education doesn't matter. It's my drive, my passion for what I want to create.
Yeah, totally. I was reading Kyra's face about the education stuff, and I think she and I are on the same page there, that a lot of frustration with the education that we received in the formal education system.
Yep.
Definitely.
Right, Kyra. Was there anything you wanted to add?
This morning I was watching your interview speaking about your book, and something caught my attention. And you said that even though you are doing so well today, and you're happy and you've created this beautiful life for yourself, you didn't say those words, but I took them in that, So, and you said that even today, you still struggle sometimes with self-esteem. Now, I wanted to know what kind of thoughts are going through your mind when you're struggling with self-esteem.
Yeah, that is I'll call it my dragon. That is a dragon that I constantly battle. And in all the travel I've done around the world now, it is the actual common theme I see everywhere around the world is low self-esteem. And for me, what comes up is I don't have the right education, or that person, like as an example, I have a coaching call coming up this afternoon. One of my students, that the guy makes millions. And I then noticed my mind starting to compare. I've done well. I've done over $100 million in sales from the stage in 18 years. But yet, what does my mind go to? But look at how much more successful he is than I am. And all of a sudden, I go into comparison mode. When I find myself starting to compare myself to others, I then say I need to compare apples to apples. Because, for me, when I burnt out, because I overlived my passion, I went from overliving it to not living it at all for 3.5 years. And all my old negative non-supportive habits started coming back. And so when I came out of retirement, I said, you know what, I want to have a little more balance in my life. Because let's be clear, I love my time off. I love my family time. I love, like right now it's camping season. So all summer long, my wife and I are out camping as much as we can. We're at rodeos. We're just enjoying life. And so what I've learned to do is I start going, okay, what do they do that's allowed them to be there, and what is their passion? And so this student of mine, as an example, he loves his work. He develops multi-million-dollar homes. He loves to mentor people, and he goes, 5 days a week, because the weekends he's very, like he says, he's a God-made millionaire. So weekends is for him and family. So he's built the balance in his life that he wants. My balance in my life is when I came out of retirement, I went from doing 40 to 50 events a year. I said 20 a year, which allows me to take 6 months a year off. Even though I was flying 200,000 miles a year around the world, I was still taking 6 months a year off to be with family. And so then I go, so with that balance, am I okay with the income, with the wealth, with the space I'm in? And I go, yeah, I'm okay with it. And it's always that reminder, though, that when I feel that self-doubt and start comparing myself, I have to put everything into perspective. And that's where I start looking at the other person's life. Because some people, they're not happy unless they're just going for as much as possible. They want to create millions. They want to create billions. And me, I'm like, you know what? I'm good with the life I have, and I have a very nice lifestyle. So I'm okay with that because I love my time with family. I hope that makes sense.
It does. Now, so it seems to me that your thought process was kind of having a little logical conversation with yourself in your mind. Like, hey, Robert Riopel, let's look at the facts. Let's look at the basics. Let's look at your values. Let's look at the abundance. Now let's re-ask the question. Are you happy? You know, do you need to compare? Are you, financially fair? Are you where you want to be? So is that correct? Do you have kind of like a lot conversation?
Oh, I talk to myself all the time. and I know it's getting to be a bit too much if I want to start going on Facebook and doing a poll to get the answer to one of my questions. That's when I get worried. But no, in seriousness, I'm always having those conversations with myself. And then when I do, I also realize that how hard I end up being on myself. And I know no one ever is hard on themselves. And then I start to focus on then what's going great in my life, because it all comes down to that focus. The moment I start going into the negative, non-supportive, then it's like, whoa, stop. Why are we going there? And as an example, I'm working, because I'm always working on adding value wherever I can. And the opportunity that brings always blows my mind. I'm now part of being brought onto the board of directors of a company where an app that we've created that they want my input because of my connections and stuff. And for my investment of time in my connections and my experience and what I'm doing, all of a sudden now I'm a shareholder and I'm board of directors. And our exit strategy is in the next 5 years that this app and this company is going to sell for multi-billions, which will then bring generational wealth to me that I couldn't even dream of. And so when I sit there and start getting tough on myself, I go, yeah, but because of who you are and what you've been doing, this is what's also manifested in your life. And that allows me to then go, okay, keep doing what you're doing. Because the moment I try to be someone different, that's when the struggles come in. And so that's why my message to people is, and this is my true belief, the greatest gift I believe anybody can give this planet is to be yourself, to be authentic, whatever that looks like. And this is coming from a reformed people pleaser right here. I used to be a world-class people pleaser. And the moment I quit thinking I had to please everyone, that's when my life started coming more into balance.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Grant Cardone 10X conference, but Kyra and I have attended that for several years. And there's a speaker this year named Tillman Fertitta, biggest restaurateur, owns the Houston Rockets, owns Landry's restaurants. And he was talking about buying the Houston Rockets for $2 billion and with the expectation of selling it in a couple years for $3 billion, or at least that it would be worth $3 billion in a couple years. And I mean, talk about scale, like making $1 billion in a couple of years. It's awesome to hear about, but at the same time, I think for the vast majority of the population, that's in a different galaxy. And so most people are like, okay, yeah, that sounds great, but I can't go buy a sports team for $2 billion. I don't have $2 billion. And obviously you make a down payment and you finance some of it. You don't have to pay $2 billion, but still, he had to put down $100 million as a non-refundable deposit just to buy that team. Most people do not have $100 million sitting around, right? So let's bring it back to sort of, this numbers discussion again. Because from what you're saying, it's reiterating to me that the big jackpot is selling the business, right? It's not running it. Running it does generate passive income and cash flow, but the big money maker is the selling of that business eventually. While you own the business, like operating a Domino's, does that generate $5,000 in a month of passive income? Or would you need multiple Domino's locations?
Well, realize I sold my last store 20 years ago. So things have definitely changed in that time.
Oh, yeah.
But, I'm going to touch on something that you said, because when your mind starts going there about, well, most people don't have 100 million, start with where you're at. And as an example, and we can dive into this if you want, my wife and I bought our first 2 Domino's pizzas with no money. We had no money, and we were able to
How did you do that?
I'll tell you exactly how we did it if you want. And for us, the mindset, and this is what I want people to understand is the worst thing you can do is start comparing yourself to others. That's why I brought that example up earlier. So start with where you're at. Start with where you're at and ask yourself, what can I do? So what's a smaller deal you can do? How can you make something happen that A, it's going to give you confidence, B, it's going to get you going in a forward momentum, and the learnings you're going to get are then going to allow you then to go to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. I guarantee you, he did not start at putting $100 million down on a business. That's not where he started his career. That's where he's at now after how many years? But that's not where he started, right? So my wife and I, as an example, here we are. We're stressed out. We're 23 years of age. And we just find out our franchisee's selling his 2 stores. And the reason we're stressed out is we know we've seen enough stores sold around us that the moment a store is sold, the managers are let go because the new owners come in with their team. And so we're now going, oh my goodness, we're both about to lose our jobs. And I'm sitting here and I'm freaking out and I'm like, what are we going to do? And we got to get a hold of the other franchisees. We got to find out who else needs managers. And my wife's letting me blow off steam. And she lets me blow off steam, and I stop for a moment. She goes, are you done? And I'm like, what do you mean, am I done? She goes, obviously you're not done. Get it out. Come on. And I finished, just going and just getting out the energy. And when I'm done, she goes, now, are you done? And I'm like, yeah, I'm done. She goes, first of all, wrong answer. I'm like, what do you mean wrong answer? She goes, we're not going to find other franchisees to work for. She said, we're qualified to be franchisees. Why don't we just buy this store? And I looked at her like she was insane. I'm like, because we don't have any money. That's why we don't buy the store, right? And my wife, who's the youngest of 5, raised by a single mother, she was taught you figure out a way. So we started learning, how do you buy a business if you have no money? And we made a ton of mistakes, but we learned every time. And one of the first things we were able to do that we learned is my franchisee wanted out so bad, we entered into a management agreement. Cost us no money to do it, but basically said we were going to take ownership of the profits or losses of the store. He got to step away. We would manage the store until either we or someone else bought the stores. That way, any losses, we would take responsibility. We would sign on for that and all this. And that gave him the freedom to actually, start looking at other things. And so we started managing the stores. And while we're doing that, we're learning what do you say and not say to be able to get financing. And so during this 4 to 5 months of deep learning and stress, because now we're running 2 stores full time, and we're going streamlined as we can to try to make some money. And we're also at the same time learning, how can we buy this store? And we would do things like someone would go, oh, Robert, Roxanne, you know what? I've got investors. They'll lend you the money. I can line you up. And we're like, great. And they go, here, my fee is $1,000. You pay that up front. I'll then introduce you to my investors. And the moment we pay the $1,000, oh, I'm sorry, none of them really want to, they're not willing to take that risk on you. And, well, what about our money back? No, sorry, that was non-refundable. And so we learned that we are saying the wrong thing to investors as an example. We'd get in front of an investor and we'd say, yep, these 2 Domino's pizzas, we're looking at buying this business. Not knowing that that statement turned off investors. Because in their mind, they're going, you're buying the business. That means you're buying any liabilities, including any kind of lawsuits, anything like that. Wrong answer. And when we learn to say, we're actually starting our own company and buying the assets of the business, which mean we're just buying the ovens, the rights, everything like that, leaving all the liabilities aside. That would then get people's interest. And after about 5 months of making a lot of mistakes, we now had the confidence to go to our bank. And because we now knew what to say and what not to say, they didn't give us the financing for the store that we were working in. They actually gave the 100% financing for both stores because we had enough assets in the businesses to actually cover the loan. And so now we got this loan coming, but we still have all the turnover costs. How much food was on hand? You got to pay cash for that. All those things that he had money into that we now had to pay him back. Well, because we had been managing the store for 5 months, we had managed to make enough money into the bank to pay all those closing costs. So that's how we were able to buy the 2 stores with no money of our own. It just took some creativity, some hard work, and most importantly, willingness to learn.
Awesome. I appreciate you going into the mechanics of it, because it really helps, I think, to see just how technical it can be, this stuff, but it's totally learnable, right? Is this something that you teach?
That's the kind of
workshops?
things I absolutely teach now, and in my one-on-one coaching and my one-on-one mentoring. Of course, my goal is I love teaching trainers how to train, because, in reality, and I look back, my wife and I, when we were in our Domino's pizzas, even though it looked like a glamorous life for 9 years of being franchisees, our best year with both of us working full-time, we made $60,000 for the year for ourselves, even though we were owners. And today, when I teach someone training, I can show someone how to make $60,000 in a weekend. And so it's like, which one is a better use of my time? And that's then the example back to your the gentleman you were mentioning that bought the Houston Rockets, I think you said, right? Is I guarantee you his mindset and his growth and where he's at today, what he makes today versus what he made and how hard he had to work when he was younger, just getting started. This is where you grow as you go. And I love the universal principle that says you will be paid in direct proportion to the value you give. So my wife and I were giving value through pizzas, and we were paid proportionally to that. But now that I help people around the world, I'm paid in proportion to that. So it's how can you give more value? How can you help more people? Not necessarily by working harder. Remember, working smarter, getting focused, and watch how quickly you can actually, make more money. And then what comes into that as well is being willing. And this was a tough one, going back to what Kyra asked me, because this is one I struggled with and still struggle with, is owning my value. I just signed a client to a six-figure deal. And when I was giving the numbers at first, I was like inside going, I hope it's not too much. And then I went, wait a second, you silly booger. Of course, we're going to help her, help a lot of people. She's going to make a lot of money. So yes, own your freaking value. And the moment I did, all of a sudden, next thing you know, she's like, okay, yep, I'll take option 2. And which was, we gave her 3 options: pay in full, pay a big lump sum with 2 more payments based on KPIs, or pay monthly for the 6-month contract. And she opted to, do the second option, where she's paying like 70% of the money up front, and then the other 2 payments come when we give her some KPIs. And it's up to me and my partner now how quickly we deliver those KPIs, because we know we can do it quickly, and then the rest will be released and will help her help a lot of people. So if I didn't own my value, and my partner, when we got off the call, he goes, where'd that number come from? And I said, well, that's called a rectal pull. Or MSU, make shit up. And I said, it's what felt right for what we're going to deliver. And he's like, I wouldn't have gone that high. And I said, exactly, but it felt right. And that's learning to trust your value.
Yeah, such a dance between mindset and the mechanics, right?
Yeah, that could be a music group instead of Mike and the Mechanics.
Yeah.
Mindset and the Mechanics. Featuring Robert, Kyra, and Robert. There we go.
There we go.
RKR.
Nice.
I loved looking into your Instagram before this podcast. First of all, I loved a lot of the quotes that you used, and having you on our podcast has been a real pleasure. Your energy is great. You seem to have a wonderful heart, and you seem to be very clear-headed. I love the energy that you bring even in your Instagram posts. I felt it. So I just wanted to make that clear. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Anytime.
Right. So you've got the Instagram going on. I know you have a website. Where would you like people to go? If
Yeah,
they want to find out
I
more?
believe our time is one of our most precious commodities. And the fact that the two of you took your precious time to have me on your podcast, I so honor that. And the fact that your listeners and viewers have taken their precious time, if they go to robertriopel.com, just my name, as a gift from us to them, they actually, my international best-selling book, Success Left a Clue, they're going to be able to download the entire digital copy as our gift to them. Now, I will tell you that comes with a caveat, though. And the caveat is I didn't write the book for people to take it and put it on the shelf and make it shelf help. That's not why I wrote it. Oh, good, you got my joke. Thank you. I wrote it, and I know people, the biggest difference between success and non is action. And step number 3 in my book of the 6 steps is you have to take action. So I wrote it as a work manual with action steps all the way through. And I'll even say things like, hey, did you do the last action? If not, stop reading right now. Go back, do the action before you continue reading, because I know people are creatures of habit. So if they download the book, they read it, and they do the action steps, I know it'll change their life. And I'm in my give back phase of my life as well right now. So when people download the book, they're also going to actually be able to book in a 20-minute one-on-one personal success roadmap call with me. Not with someone else, but with me. They will actually have to do a questionnaire, and so I can get to know them before a call, and they'll take an assessment. And when they get on that 20 minutes with me, which is a gift to them as well, and I won't do any selling, I'm going to be there for 20 minutes to just be focused on them and guiding them on how to get through to the next level of their life. And so I'd love to be able to do that for your audience as well.
Yeah, much appreciation. So thank you so much for joining our podcast and for sharing all of this. This is really good stuff. I hope people take advantage of the materials.
Well, again, thank you for having me on your podcast. I appreciate it.
Did you find at least one gold nugget in today's episode? Then please like and subscribe and share it with a friend. And finally, if you're looking for a community of like-minded people, join our free Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/enterthemind.